Hey everybody, this is Joe. Thank you for watching my Giga-Texas construction update video.
Well, it's Wednesday, the 5th of July, 2023, and I hope you had a great 4th of July holiday yesterday. Now, as we talked before, there is no production of Model Ys going on today because they are doing upgrades and doing additional modifications to the lines to try to make them more efficient so that they can increase the production rate. And hopefully later this week, possibly tomorrow, we'll start seeing the employees back and getting trained on this new equipment so we can see production beginning again. Also, for today, the theme is large deliveries. And this is associated not only with some of the components going in for the Model Y upgrades for that production line, but also for the Cybertruck. As you can see by this series of images, a lot of very interesting and in some cases very large deliveries are being made. Now this one here with these tarps on it, I spotted being delivered on the east side and then followed it all the way over to the General Assembly west side, and this is where they are doing the final construction and assembly of the Cybertruck production line. So very interesting. On the south end, we can see this delivery of a lot of steel components in that south end where they have the walls opened up by the stamping too. And on this image over on the east side, we see a very interesting delivery being made over by the old house complex, which itself is going to be demolition very soon, possibly the end of this week or next week. Now, another thing that I want to show you of high interest is Megapacks. Now, we just saw the delivery of the 19th, 20th, and 21st Megapack here at the site, and as soon as the trucks arrive, the crane picks them up and they install them over onto the pad. And it looks like there's going to be several more coming today. As a reminder, there will eventually be 68 of these Megapacks installed, so we're not quite halfway through that installation. Now, there's a lot of other things to see today. Even though there's not a lot of production going on, construction is well underway. So I hope that you enjoyed this intro and some of the things to look for during this flight, and of course the narration and all the other things that we'll talk about in the actual video. Thank you very much for your support. I do appreciate it, and I hope you have a great rest of the week. Take care.
A special thank you to all of my outstanding Patreons for your continued encouragement and support. Patreon members get access to hundreds of high-resolution photos, previews of the future material, and direct dialogue with me. If you would like to support my channel, please consider becoming a patron using this link, which is also in the video description. Please also consider hitting the like and subscribe buttons, as this helps as well. Thank you. My drones are ready and raring to go. Let's go flying over Giga-Texas. Well, good morning to the 5th of July. It's Wednesday, and it's actually a little cooler with some rain in the forecast, but that's okay since there's no production going on today. There's quite a bit of deliveries that we'll be looking at and I'll be showing you, especially on this side of the building. But what we're going to start off first is in this location. This is the end of line with these two tents. You can see that ramp going into the building. There are no Model Ys, there's no employees, there's actually no activity here associated with production, and that's because of all the line upgrades that are going on inside this part of the building to increase that efficiency and production volume of the Model Ys. Now at the west main entrance, we see that crews are continuing to work on putting that stainless steel cladding on those steel beams. They've got two of the beams closest to the windows done, and they're continuing to work on the other ones. But that work is going kind of slow at this point in time, but something to keep watching. Now here you see quite a bit of materials directly ahead of us. There's a forklift moving even more materials on the left, and then there will be a ramp on the left with even more materials. Now, all of this is associated with not only the production line upgrades that we talked about, but also to complete the installation of General Assembly Lines 2 and 3, one of which is for the Cybertruck. And these crated items and what's being brought in by that forklift are important parts of that, but also you see the crates that have been opened up too. So a lot of equipment has been already installed inside. And here's another truck with even more of these white painted components. These are usually part of the assembly lines, and this is another great thing to see as all of the work going inside is coming to a rapid end, and soon we should start seeing the employees assigned to the Cybertruck line, if not already, and getting that line ready for production to begin. And that should take place most of the rest of this month, and then early August, maybe we'll start seeing that happen, and some of the Cybertrucks starting to show up. Now here, this temporary platform is a lot of material also arriving. There will be more later on in the day as I'm continuing to fly. But I'll also show you here, there's excavation work going on at this corner. And it looks like not only are the third floor windows removed, but some sections of the second floor windows have been removed in this area as well. And earlier we saw one of those panes of glass sitting there next to that platform. There's some more items next to the wall on the left-hand side of the screen. You can see these white riser pipes, and also work going on here with this underground well or cistern. More of the concrete pipe segments are being prepared for installation, and this is a good view to see some of the pipe work and the trench box that's in place to help protect the workers from any collapse. All of this work is going on to install what I think is a drainage pipe or a drainage system from this well, and this well is what is used to help control the water table under this portion of the factory. And as we continue to pull away, you see the components for the continuous flight auger pier system and more rebar here in this section. On the left-hand side of the screen, you see some workers and some other materials on the left-hand side of the road, so there's work going on there as well. And this is a good overall view of the entire south end of how it looks today. More of the man lifts, more of the equipment, and more of the vehicles for the contractors, which is a great sign. Here's those rebar cages for the CFA piles, still waiting for that to resume. And then this is a good view of this asphalt portion of this intersection that's being created to help support the rest of this extension of River Road going off to the left. Also note, almost all of the materials have been removed on this side of the power lines. There's just a few remaining, and again, I think that's an indication of the work that's going on inside with all of the assembly line construction and assembly. This is a good view looking back towards the factory of this south end. The CFA pile drilling apparatuses here, these two cranes and all of the equipment, still kind of sitting idle. Nearby, we see some trucks with some interesting deliveries, and I'll give you some close-up views of that a little later in the video. And again, the contractor vehicles and some of the equipment being staged here for the work that's going on in and around this particular area. This gray painted section is where the temporary platform used to be. As you can see, it's been kind of reconverted into some of that rental equipment on the third floor, and just sort of like a opening for some materials to go in and out of that section. Here with this large open area into Stamping 2, we see some excavation work now at the perimeter grade beam at the bottom of the screen. We see more of these crates with the white tops have been delivered for assembly. Inside that open section, we can see what looks to be white painted electrical equipment been installed just underneath the scaffolding. And you can see this temporary plastic wall to help protect some of the equipment from the weather while this door or this wall is open. On the ground, we can see more rebar as well on that slab. And then you can see these pipes in the right-hand side of the screen where they will extend into the new part of the building. And then this is a good overall view of the work that's going on at the end of the perimeter grade beam of this section. As I fly up over the roof here, this gives you a good idea of how this section looks with those roof panels and membranes removed. Also, the vents that have been installed onto the roof section recently. And then as I turn around, this is a great overall view of the south end, how it looks today from the building looking to the south. And then, of course, this open section where they remove the walls and some of the beams. And also, as you can tell, these deliveries of these gray steel components is well underway today. There's several trucks. Some of them have already been moved off onto the ground here by this forklift. The worker gives you a good idea of the scale of these items. Many more here as well. And this may be associated with that open section, maybe extending the building to the south at that point. And speaking of which, we're going to need a lot more footings at some point in the future. So they've been constructing these rebar cages, and there's a lot more rebar to go to construct many, many more of these. So we should start seeing footing construction on the south end pretty soon. At least I would think so based on the amount of rebar that's being prepared. On the east side of the stamping machine structure, we see quite a bit of deliveries, some of the crates with equipment. Some of the equipment's been moved inside already, and quite a bit of those white painted items that are associated with that stamping 2 equipment that continues to be installed. As I pull away to the south, I'll give you a good reveal of the overall south end, the building, the open section, and how this looks today. As we come down lower, we can see how this intersection continues to transform. There's formwork, there's rebar, and there's also some trenching around the side with some pipes involved. And we can see the median and how that is looking as we continue to the north, and how this will match what we see with the asphalt roads already in place. Now on the left-hand side of the screen, this is a good view again of all of the materials that are being stored here temporarily until they're being moved into the building. All of these white items and the white wrapped items are going into stamping 2 on that south end with the opening that we just saw. And then this is a good view of quite a bit of other materials that are waiting outside of the stamping machine structure and the body in white. And one of the things I want to show you in the bottom left hand of the screen, you can see those silver wrapped items. Those are more robots. There's been a lot of robots being delivered and moved inside of the building over the last several months. And I think that's key to the assembly of General Assembly Lines 2 and 3, especially for the Cybertruck. Speaking of which, here's a special delivery, this very large oversized truck, this red and kind of blue wrapping items. I followed this later on. I didn't capture it in the video, but these were delivered over to the west side of General Assembly and near where that ramp is. And we saw, again, a similar delivery last week with almost the exact same equipment. And I think that's part of the Cybertruck production line. Here's even more deliveries, as you can see today. The red truck is turning around. That's going to go over to the east side. And then the white truck with that small kind of box, that's going to the south end near stamping 2 as well. The testing and calibration lot is completely slow today. There's no activity, there's no testing, there's no vehicles being moved over here because of that production line upgrade process that's going on. The Rainmaker structure and the wind tunnel are also not being in operation right now. You can tell that new car staging and transportation lot is also almost completely empty and devoid of any activity. There's no trucks coming today because there's no vehicles to be picked up. And all of this, again, is part of that upgrade system. And hopefully tomorrow, or certainly by the end of the week, we'll have the employees back and we'll start seeing Model Ys being produced again. I'm taking the opportunity of this slow day to show you a close-up view of these tents. This is where the new Model Ys come for the last time to be checked out and prepared for movement over to this staging location and for pickup by the trucks. And as I mentioned before, you can see that delivery near the tree. It's going over to the east side. That's the one that we saw. Turning around on that south. And speaking of turning around, I'll take this opportunity here to get back down low and show you the other side of this tent-like structure where, as I mentioned, the Model Ys, the final checkouts are done before they're moved over to the staging location. And as I pan around, this gives you a really good view of the new car staging and transportation lot and how it looks today. It's very rare to see no vehicles and no activity, and this will definitely change very soon. You can see even more deliveries are being made here onto this road. This is the main road on the east that runs north to south, and you see almost all of the deliveries and all of the vehicles being moved off-site, being transported on this particular road. Now I'm going to take this opportunity to get down low again to show you a couple of these signs. As you can see here, it says the car hauler entrance check-in. That's easy for me to say. And then over here, this sign is the WOW yard, or warehouse on wheel yard deliveries. And the trucks would come into this checkpoint, into the warehouse on wheels, and this is how it would look, almost as if you're on the ground. Now more deliveries on the right-hand side of the screen, some deliveries at the bottom of the screen happening right now in that truck. And then off to the left, we see the material staging yard with quite a bit of materials. The ones closest to us in these white wrapped items are the TKS paint system, and we've seen quite a bit of this arrive. A lot of it's been moved into the building already. Obviously more. This is a very large dip tank, and I believe that this is associated with the Cybertruck production lines, and you know, it's great to see that. More of the deliveries here next to the old house, and as we approach to the old house, some really good close-in views. This is probably one of the last times we'll see this house here. Not sure what the history is, but this old house and that kind of that structure in the middle of the screen, it's kind of like a planter or maybe a fountain, is all that's left of this entire facility now. And all of the trees have been relocated. Here's 3 of them on the left-hand side of the screen that have been relocated. You can see quite a bit of workers in this area. They're all getting ready to do some more work here. And I do think that maybe by the end of the week that the old house will finally be gone. On the left-hand side of the screen and up towards the die shop, we see the ground is being filled in here, and then the remaining trenches with that black HDPE treated water pipe that has now reached almost this southwest corner of the die shop. And I would expect to see this take a turn and head up to the north at some point in the near future. Also see some work here on the crews and those underground vaults for the electrical conduit that serves this location. No windows, no doors on this structure yet, but it does look like there's some crews putting in some of the insulation between the concrete panels, which is one of the final steps before we'll see this receive a coat of the white stain like the main factory. This apron section with the rails for the gantry crane has got some white deliveries today in various packages, so that's a neat thing to see. And there's that heavily reinforced foundation inside where there's going to be some pretty large machinery installed very soon. So we go over the workshop and just take a look at this west side. This is a good overall view of how it looks today. On the left-hand side, we see some of those steel corrugated pipes that's associated with the water management system for rainwater. Looks like one is being delivered right now. Look at the worker. I guess it gives you a really good idea of the scale of these pipes. They are actually immense, and it's pretty neat to see how they get delivered here, and they're being stockpiled until they're being installed. Much of them are being installed on the east side of the building, and we'll see that later in the video. As we fly closer to the structure, you can see on the ground more of that trench work. There's that trench box next to the kind of that green pipe with the white pipe running through it. There's some water in there as well that's being pumped out, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen. This is part of a water pipe that will move up towards the north, and there's a lift station that's permitted for construction on the north end of this particular section. As we continue to fly to the south towards the alleyway, I'll give you some good close-in and low-down views of the chiller plant and all of the activity that's going on today. We see quite a bit on the ground floor and on the left-hand side of the screen by that white tank. Also, continued work next to the Evapco fan units and on this roof section where quite a bit of these red tanks pumps, pipes, manifolds, and it looks to me like it's actually much closer to being completed now, although there are still more pipes that you can see with the caps off that need to be connected in the near future. So continues to see a lot of work there. As we fly through the alleyway and we approach this south end, you can see on the ground where there's some more trenching. Looks like it's a blue water pipe being installed here, and then on the left-hand side, those vaults are for some of the conduit for electrical. As we climb in altitude and turn back towards the battery cathode plant, we'll take a chance to see how this entire site looks from this vantage point before we go over to the east side to see some of the activity going on over there. Crews continue to work on this east side with this new structure. On the bottom of the screen, we can see that underground vault-like structure. We see these wall sections. In the middle, there's a kind of a trench with pipes, and ending at this north kind of serrated part of that foundation. And then this is that very interesting concrete section that is kind of bowl-shaped in the middle, and still waiting to find out what that is for. On the east side of the cell test lab, more of that steel corrugated pipe for the underground water management system is being installed. Now it is well north of the cell test lab, and that large blue item is another trench box that's put into place to protect the workers from any collapsing of the trench while they're doing the work to install the pipe. And as I turn around, this is a good view of the overall east side and how all of the activity appears today going on this side of the cathode plant. Now the north end, on the top, we can see all the windows have been installed, and then on the bottom we can see those retaining walls that will kind of define the receiving docks. And there's still some formwork, so there's some concrete that still needs to be poured, but it is progressing at a pretty rapid rate. So let's go ahead and fly across the site and go over to the electrical switchyard and Megapack site and see how that looks today. Most of the activity at the electrical switchyard is on this south end, so let's get in and get some closer views of the work that's going on. This kind of excavated area where they're doing the underground walls for this vault. About half of the walls have had the concrete poured on that west side, and they're getting ready to transfer those forms over to this rebar end section of the walls, and then they'll be able to pour more concrete. And then you can see some of those yellow items. Some of those are some of the forms necessary to get ready those walls for the concrete to be poured. And in the distance, you can see the Megapack site, and we'll be getting some good close-in views there to see all of the Megapacks that have been delivered today. This conduit that you see going under the bottom of the screen over to these concrete vaults is what will eventually connect to the electrical switchyard, but also further to the south to other vaults. It heads off to the east over to the battery cathode and to the die shop for the electricity for that complex of structures. And here you can see a really good view. The red concrete around the conduit is, again, to help warn future construction workers, if they're doing excavation there, that there are electrical conduits. So let's fly up over the power lines and the power towers and take a look at the Megapack site today. And what you see is already 20 of the Megapacks have been in place, and the 21st is just arrived by truck. It's been hooked up to the crane. It's getting ready to be lifted over onto its permanent location. Now, sadly, my battery was about to run out, so by the time I returned, they had already moved the Megapack over, and they're just getting ready to set it down. But this gives you a really good idea of the processes involved And by looking at that trailer that's driving away, just the size and the weight that's involved with these Megapacks. And this is a good close-in view of how the process of putting them in the final location works. And it looks like they are just basically resting onto this graveled mix that they've already spread and made sure is very level. And that seems to be the process for the Megapack installation. Now you see those kind of black trenches in between the Megapacks. It's got some type of material on it right now to kind of seal off the top, but I think that some of the connections are going to go through each of those trenches. On this side of the site, we see some of the small excavators preparing for these concrete pads to be in place, and there's some crews getting ready to final placement for one of them, and that's for the transformers that are part of the Megapack site. As we turn around on this north end to see a good view of the steel assembly that's part of the electrical support system for the Megapacks. On the left-hand side of the screen, we see more of the conduit being prepared for installation. Also the gravel mix in that road section that connects the Megapack site over to the electrical switch yard. And a good overall view of how this end of the site looks today. And you can also tell right in the middle there's that large concrete poured foundation, and I'm looking forward to see what will be installed there. On the bottom of the screen, crews are installing more of the insulators on the steel structure as well. As we proceed back towards the Megapack site from this vantage point, this gives you a good look at how 21 of these Megapacks installed looks today. And there will eventually be 68 of them, so they're about maybe 1/3 of the way through the installation of the Megapacks. And again, a good viewpoint here of how the Megapacks look, also the transformers on the pads, and how all of this is starting to really come together here at the Megapack site. You cross over Tesla Road and fly over these castings and the rack mounts that are situated on this north parking lot location, kind of as overflow. We'll get close to the east side of the casting machine structure and give you a good view of how this looks today. On the left, the widened berm and all the conduit has been installed all the way up until about the middle of the screen, where it will take a 90-degree turn and go into that section where we've seen the concrete removed. Also, you can see they have a lot of the castings that have been stockpiled on this location, and they did that before they did the production stoppage for the line upgrades. But soon we should see this in full operation again. As we continue to fly towards the south, as I mentioned, this is where the conduit's going to take a 90-degree turn and then go through this section where they've removed some of the concrete on the apron. They've got that trenching where you can start seeing the conduit extending from that concrete vault, and another large trench as well. Now, at the perimeter grade beam of the wall near where that truck is located is where the electrical enters the building right now. So this is all in preparation to be able to connect the electrical conduit to the new electrical switch yard. Now, as we are on the roof section, I wanted to give you a close-in view here. Crews are busy. It looks like they are preparing to cut sections of the roof material and the decking to install these rectangular frames. Underneath these tents, you can kind of get an idea of how some of this may look. And on to the left, you can see kind of those platforms with electrical boxes. I think this is the main junction where all of the solar panel electricity will come into one unit of the building and then enter the building. Because we don't see that anywhere else on the roof. So it's another thing I'm continuing to monitor, and we'll see how that develops. As we come back down here on the northeast corner of casting, this is a good view of this main junction for the electrical conduit and some more of the castings and the racks next to the wall. As we fly along the north end of the building, we can see is that on this right-hand side, the crews are getting ready to resume the white painting the white staining of this portion of the building, and so we'll start seeing this north end of the building painted or stained here soon, and continuing that off towards the east to the casting machine structure. So there you have it, a good look at a busy but no production day here at Giga-Texas on the 5th of July. And as we pull away, I'll give you a good view across the highway of how the site looks from this particular vantage point, and as we fly over the northwest material staging location. As always, thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I hope that you enjoyed and found informational all the things that we talked about. Have a great week. Take care.